All right, welcome to this deep dive. We're doing things a little differently today. We're going to be tackling thinking mathematically.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, but not to like solve equations, or anything like that.
Right.
This is more about unlocking the mindset.
The mindset behind it.
Exactly. We've got excerpts from different chapters throughout this book, and trust me, this isn't just textbook stuff, you know what I mean?
Right.
We're going to explore some pretty intriguing concepts here.
I'm intrigued already.
Like why getting stuck is actually a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
And how specializing can help you do things like, fix a flute or win a chess game.
Oh, wow.
Or even just figure out why your bike tire tracks look kind of weird when you're riding through a puddle.
Huh. Okay.
Yeah, so, I think what's really fascinating about this book is that the author argues that these aren't just techniques,
Yeah,
these are natural powers that we all have.
exactly.
It's about becoming aware of how you think,
Mm-hmm.
not just memorizing formulas.
It's not about rote memorization.
No, not at all. Yeah.
So thinking mathematically kicks off by saying that math is about process, not just answers.
Oh, okay.
And honestly, that's a relief because sometimes I feel like I'm drowning in numbers.
I think we've all been there.
Right. But the authors make this really convincing case that anyone can learn to think this way.
It's more accessible than we think.
It is. It really is.
Yeah.
It's about recognizing the elegance in how you approach a problem, not just whether you get the right answer,
Right.
It's like the difference between admiring a beautifully crafted bridge and just driving over it without a second thought.
I love that analogy.
Right.
That's a good one.
So let's dive into this whole being stuck thing.
Okay.
The book tells a story about fixing a flute.
Oh, a flute.
Those really delicate musical instruments?
Yeah.
And how the author felt completely lost at first, They didn't know anything about flute construction.
Right.
But instead of panicking, they started small.
They focused on just one part of the flute, comparing it to a working one.
That's specializing in action.
It is. It is. And I can totally relate to that.
Oh, yeah.
Remember that time I was trying to build that bookshelf from IKEA?
Oh, from a kid.
From a kit. The instructions were like hieroglyphics, I swear.
Oh, no.
But once I focused on just, one step at a time,
Yeah.
it started to make sense.
It's like a light bulb goes off.
Totally. It's like, oh, okay, I can do this.
Yeah, yeah.
And that's exactly the point the book is making.
Right? Being stuck isn't failure.
It's not.
It's an opportunity to learn.
It's like hitting the pause button and saying, okay, what's really going on here?
Exactly. You're taking a step back.
So instead of feeling defeated, we
Yeah.
should see it as a chance to flex our mental muscles.
To grow, to learn.
But how do we actually get unstuck?
That's the question.
The book suggests two main techniques.
Okay.
Specializing and generalizing. They sound a bit technical,
A little bit.
but trust me, they're incredibly powerful.
Powerful tools.
Let's start with specializing.
Right.
Using the book's painted tires example.
Painted tires.
Okay, imagine this. You're riding your bike
Okay.
through a strip of wet paint.
All right. I'm picturing it.
What would those marks on the ground look like?
Okay. So,
I'll give you a second to think about it. I'd probably just say a straight line.
straight line. Okay.
Maybe with the tire tread pattern visible.
I see.
A
Yeah.
lot of people think that.
Right.
But it's actually more complex than that.
More to it than meets the eye.
Yeah, so by specializing, considering the front and back tires separately, you realize you'll get two sets of lines.
Two sets.
Because the back tire doesn't hit the exact same spot as the front.
Oh, I didn't think of that.
Right.
Interesting.
It's like those optical illusions,
Yeah.
where you think you're seeing one thing, but
Right.
then a whole other image emerges. So specializing in this case helped reveal a hidden pattern.
A pattern you wouldn't have seen otherwise.
Exactly.
That's cool.
Now let's flip to generalizing.
Okay.
We can use the chessboard example.
The chessboard. Okay.
How many squares are there on a chessboard?
Well, there are 64 individual squares.
Right.
The obvious one.
The obvious ones, yeah.
But then you have the 2x2 squares,
Yeah.
the 3x3 squares,
Yeah.
and so on.
Exactly. So by specializing, counting each size,
Okay.
you start to see a pattern.
Right.
But generalizing helps you understand why that pattern works.
The underlying principle.
It's like going beyond just recognizing the pattern to understanding the rule that creates it.
I see. Yeah, that makes sense.
It's pretty cool, right?
Yeah, it is.
I have to admit, though,
Yeah.
these still feel a bit abstract to me.
I understand.
How does this actually apply to, real life problems?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
And that's actually what we're going to unpack in the next part of our deep dive. We'll explore how specializing and generalizing can help you in everyday situations,
Right.
from fixing a leaky faucet to planning your next vacation.
Oh, cool. Okay.
We'll see how these concepts come to life.
I'm excited for that. I'm already starting to see specializing and generalizing everywhere.
Yeah.
Like even when I'm cooking,
Okay.
I might like tweak a recipe
Yeah.
by specializing, like swapping out an ingredient,
Right.
and then I try to generalize that change to other recipes.
That's a perfect example.
Really?
It highlights how these thinking processes aren't confined to math problems.
Mm-hmm.
They're applicable to almost anything.
So besides specializing and generalizing,
Yeah.
what other mental tools does this book offer?
Well, there's this intriguing concept called doing and undoing,
Doing and undoing.
which essentially means thinking in reverse.
Thinking in reverse. That sounds like a mental workout.
Imagine solving a jigsaw puzzle by starting with the completed picture and taking it apart piece by piece.
Oh,
That's doing and undoing in action.
so instead of just focusing on how to get to a solution, we also think about how to create the problem that leads to that solution.
Precisely. Let's say you've managed to bake a perfect loaf of bread.
Okay. Yeah.
Now think about undoing the process. What were the individual steps that led to that result?
Right.
What would happen if you tweaked one of those steps?
It's like deconstructing a recipe to understand the role of each ingredient and how they work together.
Exactly. And this principle applies to more than just baking.
Oh, okay.
Think about coding.
Okay.
You write a program to achieve a specific outcome.
Right.
By undoing the code, line by line, you gain a deeper understanding of how it works and can even identify potential bugs.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
It's like becoming a detective of your own thinking process.
Now let's switch gears to another powerful concept from the book.
Okay.
Invariance in the midst of change.
Invariance in the midst of change.
This one's all about identifying what stays the same, even when things around it are shifting.
I'm intrigued, but also a bit confused.
Okay.
Can you give me a concrete example?
Think about a chameleon, changing colors to blend in with its surroundings.
Okay.
While its appearance transforms, its core identity as a chameleon remains invariant.
Okay.
So it's like recognizing the constant amidst the variables.
And this concept has practical applications too, right?
Absolutely. Let's say you're rearranging furniture in a room.
Okay.
The position of each piece might change,
Right.
but the total area of the room remains invariant.
That's a great way to visualize it.
Yeah.
Recognizing these constants can help us make better decisions,
Right.
especially when things feel chaotic or unpredictable.
Absolutely. It's like having an anchor point amidst a swirling sea of information.
And speaking of feeling a bit lost, the book dives into the concept of freedom and constraint,
Freedom and constraint.
which sounds like a paradox.
How can freedom and constraint coexist?
Yeah, don't they contradict each other?
It might seem counterintuitive,
Yeah.
but